Probably the least affluent and most isolated of all Italy's 20 regions is Basilicata, wedged between Campania, Puglia and Calabria, with only very limited access to the sea and an economy which is almost entirely based on primary produce. Many of the historic buildings and monuments which remain are Norman, but none so striking as the castles built by Frederick II at Lago Pesole and the formidable construction at Melfi, which became his official seat. Basilicata is a region which produces some of Italy's best fruit and vegetables, and one of its most interesting red wines, Aglianico del Vulture. This is Ginestra in the Vulture district, the location of our best vineyard. The Vulture is an extinct volcano which left us with beautiful rich soil and a year-round water supply. The vines here in the Vulture district have a long history. Our Aglianico, which gives such sensational results and is now a native variety, came here originally with the Greek colonists 2,000 years ago. The Aglianico bunch of grapes is quite individual. It's cone-shaped, and the grapes are not tightly compacted, which ensures an optimal ripening process. The volcano's also given us an important subsoil, volcanic tufa. This porous rock absorbs water during the winter months, which is available for the plant to draw on during the summer. As a research project, we've deep-ploughed every alternate row to facilitate the vine's access to the tufa, and we'll compare the yields. Now we're in the Cantina del Notaio, our cantina which has been hewn out of the volcanic tufa I mentioned earlier. It was made in the 1600s by Capuchin monks for their monastery, and since then nothing has really changed. However, this is the special environment in which we make and age our Aglianico del Vulture. Aglianico is considered to be the Barolo of the south, and ours is a classic example. It has a deep red color that you can't even see through. It has an unusual perfume with a suggestion of wild berries and flowers, with violets prevalent. In the mouth, it's nice and round, but very full-bodied, with an alcohol level of at least 14.5%. It's a wine which can still be enjoyed in 20 or 30 years. This is Cantina del Notaio, Cantina of the Notary, named in honor of my father, the town's notary, and that's his image on our label. As significant as the Vulture is Matera, once the capital of Basilicata, nowadays a most unusual mix of yesterday and today. Once the old section of Matera, called I Sassi, the stones, provided a safe haven for religious and political refugees in its many caves. Many years ago, just here, a colony of Albanians occupied all these caves. Today, over 200 financially disadvantaged families now occupy the Sassi district, rent-free, with the benefits of a modern city nearby. Various films have been shot here, including The Passion of the Christ with Mel Gibson. This area was made a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1993. We are at Cerignola in the Foggia province of the Puglia region, right in the heel of the Italian boot. It's just a prosperous small town with an economy which has been derived from grain-based agriculture. A rather unusual feature here is the underground grain storage area at Piazza delle Fosse, which to the untrained eye resembles a graveyard for giants. In 1930, my parents acquired this estate from the Rochefoucauld family, who were French dukes. The Rochefoucauld family were major wine producers and had constructed a private railway siding from which local wine was sent to Bordeaux. Soon after my parents had taken possession, together with another large producer, they decided to market their wines in Italy. Their wines went on sale in northern Italy and were well received, an event which, in a small way, created history for the wines of Puglia. And this was also the start of the Torre Quarto estate, as it is today. We've always been particularly conscious of quality, and while our system of cultivation may be considered old-fashioned, each vine produces less fruit, but a much better quality fruit, and hence a better wine. At Torre Quarto, we have an extensive underground cellar area where we age our wines. And here, there are a number of oak barrels which date back to 1890. These are 3 of Puglia's indigenous varieties that we produce. Sangue Blu, 100% Negro Amaro, and a typical wine from this territory. Tarabusco, a full-bodied red made from the celebrated Primitivo grape, and Nero di Troia, a good medium-strength red wine for everyday consumption. Torre Quarto has an outstanding kitchen, which specializes in traditional dishes like agnello allo zenzero con cima di rape e carciofi. The ingredients are turnip tops, which we place into boiling water for 3 or 4 minutes. And we add a little salt, a few baby lamb loin chops oiled lightly, rubbed with a peeled piece of ginger, which is left to cook with the meat. We lightly oil the pan, a sprig of rosemary and a clove of garlic. Then we add the meat to cook on a medium heat, and we add a light sprinkle of salt. Now a little oil into another pan, a generous piece or 2 of peeled garlic, and now in with the turnip tops. Mix them well, add a pinch of salt and some olive oil. Now we turn the lamb loin cutlets and then, for the moment, put them to one side. Now the preparation of the artichokes. The outer leaves have been removed and they've been cut into quarters. We begin by wiping each piece in flour, and then you dip each piece individually in egg yolk in which you've put a few fennel seeds. Another light wipe in the flour again before dropping them into a pot of boiling oil to cook until they're brown on the outside. Into another pot we pour a good half bottle of wine over a lowish flame. Separately we mix a little olive oil and a tablespoon or 2 of plain flour, which we mix well. And then pour it into the wine, which is nicely heated, and we leave it for a minute or 2. As we put the turnip tops on the plate, then the loin cutlets, our artichokes, and finally, our wine sauce. And the dish is ready to serve. Agnello allo zenzero con cima di rape e carciofi. Now let's try the Nero di Troia, which is just right for this dish. It's a signature wine of this district. Once a bustling seaport, Trani reached its peak of prosperity under Frederick II. Today, however, it's best known for its perfectly restored 12th century Duomo, dedicated to St. Nicholas the Pilgrim. And for its dessert wine, Moscato di Trani, which also has an ancient lineage. Overlooking Trani and the Adriatic coastline is the most magnificent monument to Frederick II, Castel del Monte. Built here in the mid-13th century, Castel del Monte outclasses every other castle associated with Frederick II. And in Puglia and Basilicata there are over 10. Castel del Monte is considered to be one of the most sophisticated secular buildings of the Middle Ages. It overlooks the extensive wine district which takes its name, Castel del Monte DOC, planted mainly with the indigenous varieties Primitivo and Bombino Nero. At Rivera, throughout our wine-making history, we've always concentrated in making wine from indigenous grape varieties, found only here in Puglia.
Nero di Troia.
We consider Nero di Troia the best variety of this district. It's been here since the time of the Greeks, and it's just being discovered outside Puglia.
Più rappresenta l'azienda.
We feel Nero di Troia best represents Rivera. It's a really great wine, but has a high tannin level, and for that reason, in Il Falcone, one of our top 2 wines, we blend in a little locally grown Montepulciano. The result is a highly elegant wine, robust but a little dry, a very deep colour and a perfume full of fruit. It's a wine which has a lingering aftertaste.
Un profumo molto elegante in bocca, è un vino molto complesso, molto lungo, con un tenore alcolico discreto ma non eccessivo. Questo vino.
This, however, is pure Puglia. It's our Nero di Troia 100%. Allowed to age for a year or 2, it'll become an incredible wine to drink. Both of our 2 top wines we age here in wood for at least a year to allow the wine to soften before bottling. A few kilometers inland is the historic site known as Canne della Battaglia, once a large Roman town. Here, in the shadow of Canne itself, Hannibal decimated the Roman legions in one of the bloodiest battles in the history of the Roman Empire. 50,000 Roman soldiers lost their lives in a single day. 10,000 were taken prisoner and the town abandoned. Lecce was also an important centre of the Roman Empire, and in the Middle Ages developed a strong tradition of scholarship. Its colourful Baroque architecture has earned it the name of the Florence of the South, a name it carries with great pride. Its people are resourceful and highly creative, a fact borne out by the activities of a special group of artisans. The making of papier-mâché figures and objects is an activity which originated in Lecce in the 1600s as a sacred art. At the time, there was a strong demand for religious statues and a lack of wood and marble, and the masters, artists and sculptors began to work with papier-mâché as a suitable alternative. Their basic material was sheets of a recycled paper product made from old papers, rags and sawdust, which had been soaked, broken up, then put into a press to remove excess water and allowed to dry. Just as we do, they used glue to soften the paper to enable it to be shaped and moulded. After 2 days drying, the little figure is ready for the final stage, colouring. First the garments and finally the face. Depending on the theme, we use acrylic, oil, or even water-based paint. Once completed, we attach those little objects, ornaments, or accessories which fit the character we've created.
Che deve portare il personaggio. Come abbiamo detto, possono essere portatori d'acqua, di fascine o rappresentare un mestiere.
At Masseria Maime, we are in the Murge Hills, Puglia's second largest wine-producing district. This is where we produce the Tomaresca range of wines, an initiative of Marchese Piero Antinori, who represents the current generation of the great Tuscan wine family. Masseria Maime is a traditional farming complex which was built in the 17th century by the Cepace family, who were nobles from the Salentino district. It's remained virtually unchanged in time. One of our main varieties here in the Salentino district is Primitivo. It's a black grape, which is the first variety picked, and for that reason was given the name Primitivo, because primo means first. It's been proven that Primitivo is directly related to the famous American variety Zinfandel. DNA tests have confirmed that originally both Primitivo and Zinfandel are derived from a native variety of Croatia. Here at Masseria Maime, we grow two indigenous varieties, Negro Amaro and Primitivo. Our Primitivo is called Torcicoda and receives very special care both in the vineyard and during the wine-making phase. It's aged in French oak barriques for about a year before bottling, and we let it rest in glass for about 9 months before releasing it to the market.
In bottiglia per circa 9 mesi prima di uscire sul mercato.
Almost forgotten in time, on the northern road from Lecce is Ostuni, founded by Greek colonists. Known today as La Città Bianca, the White City, it's a labyrinth of little streets and lanes reminiscent of an Arab Medina with boutiques, trattoria and wine bars in the most unlikely places. It's at the center of a small DOC wine zone which extends along the Adriatic coast, and where the red and white wines are unique, as their main grapes Ostuni Ottavianello and Ostuni Bianco are only grown here. Alberobello is in the heart of the Trulli district. Trulli are to be found not only at Alberobello, capital of the Trulli district, but throughout all the Itria Valley, from Locorotondo to Martina Franca. Trulli were created when the peasant farmers, while working the soil to plant their crops and vines, extracted many rocks, which are typical of this terrain, and they put them to one side. As there was very little timber and other suitable material to make a dwelling, and with very meagre financial means, they devised the trulli, which did not even require binding mortar. The smaller, flatter stones were used for the roof structure and the larger ones for the walls and as the boundary to the lot.
Con quelle più grosse riusciva a fare invece la muraglia per il cono.
As the stone material was plentiful and available at little cost, this form of construction was soon adopted in the hamlets, villages, and even in the larger towns. What you see here is somewhat unusual. This was once a self-contained village in which there were 35 trulli, and where the residents carried out a range of simple everyday activities to sustain community life.
Il palmetto che cos'è? Altro non è che la zona di...
This is a palmetto, a building in which in times past the peasants used to make their wine.
Cosa serviva? Serviva a trasportare dall'esterno.
The grapes came in through this opening and were thrown into this central area.
Da qui si pigiava proprio.
Here they were pressed by people wearing heavy boots, and the must flowed out through this channel and into a tank or vat outside.
Questa cisterna. Da questa cisterna poi partivano due differenti lavorazioni.
From here, the must was transferred into these amphorae to ferment and eventually to become wine.
Fermentare e poi diventare
What remained was shoveled through here into a large copper pot, where it was cooked until it reduced and became thick and syrupy. Vin cotto, cooked wine, at that time a prized digestive.
Il DOC Locorotondo, che è il tipo di vino bianco della Valle d'Itria.
Locorotondo, the white wine of the Itria Valley, is a blend of 3 grape varieties: Bianco dell'Essano, Verdecca and Fiano di Puglia, which has quite different features to the Fiano di Avellino.
Questo è un vigneto tipico della
Recently, it's been approved for us to include a small percentage of 2 additional varieties, Marchione and Marugi, which are both indigenous varieties.
Locorotondo stiamo inserendo. Il sistema di allevamento.
Vines have been cultivated much higher than normal here, something which has been done throughout the district to facilitate efficient and cost-effective mechanical harvesting.
Ciò che non poteva avvenire nel passato. Assaggiamo adesso questo bel bianco.
Let's try our Locorotondo. You'll find it a nice, well-balanced white.
Profumo che come gradazione alcolica, credo che
It has a lovely perfume with just a suggestion of acacia flowers.
essenzialmente al 60%, 30% di bianco da
It's very clean and fresh, not too heavy. It has an alcohol content of around 12%.
Linese e poi
This is the superiore, which is made from a select picking of grapes, goes through slow temperature-controlled fermentation in stainless steel, followed by a brief stay in oak to round it out and give it character.
temperatura così ottimale.
It can be enjoyed as an aperitif, with hors d'oeuvre like these, or with any meal. But it's a superb fish wine. It's also a great wine for a celebration. When this region became part of the Magna Graecia colonies, the Greeks soon recognized its outstanding natural wealth. They named it Enotria, the land of wine. For information on any of the wines, locations, or recipe in this show, go to www.winetrailsofitaly.com.